And with that, I will now introduce our speaker, Priya Sindkar. So Priya is a senior Android developer with over 8 years of experience in mobile app development. She is in love with Kotlin clearly and is passionate about building Android apps. She believes in neat code and a clean architecture and has a technical blogger. She is a public speaker and holds a passion for the Android community. So Priya, do share your blog with us, and it's all yours now. So I'm gonna start sharing.
Okay. Let me try to share my screens. Okay, everyone able to see my screens?
Yeah, you can see your screen. Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so hi guys. I'll be talking about how you can optimize your productivity Android app development while using Android Studio. And before I begin, a little bit of introduction about myself. So as Navati told, I have over 8 years of experience in mobile app development. I am a senior Android developer where I architect mobile apps. I help the junior developers. I am a developer. I decide the tech stack and pretty much do everything related to what more mobile development. Recently, just 2 days ago, I had the privilege to be selected as WTM ambassador. So I've been an active member of WTM Women Who Code GDG communities since a long time, and it was a pleasure to get that news 2 days back. I'm also a technical blogger. I love to write technical blogs, especially about things in Android which are very hard for me to grasp with or to find solutions to. So I start with writing those blogs. I am also a public speaker, and I always, most probably, I talk about Android and stuff. And I am a community person. As I said, I've been a member of all these communities since a long time. My hobbies are reading and writing. And above all this, I am a mother of a 4-year-old boy. So it's a bit hectic, but yeah, it's one of the great joys in my life currently. So let's go through the agenda of this talk, what I will be speaking about in small parts. Uh, I would like to start with how we can optimize Android Studio IDE uh, to soothe our eyes, or let's say to feel at ease with Android Studio. So I'll be talking about how we can use the themes and fonts and how we can use the different modes to become more productive and to feel at ease while developing, where we know where all the stuff is and where we can quickly go through one thing to another and optimize our development speed. I'll be talking about how we can improve Android Studio's performance, some of the tips and some of the hacks that I use to optimize Android Studio. Being Android developers, all of us must know the pain of Gradle building, which takes a hell lot of a time. So I'll be talking about how we can improve those performance for the studio so that it can easily speed up our project build process and help us optimize again the speed of our development. Next, I'll be talking about how we can inspect our devices with the new features that have come up with the recent Android Studio releases. I'll be talking about how we can use the running devices feature, how we can preview the layout inspector of the running device. I'll be talking about the live edits, which are a hot topic right now for Android development. And I'll also be talking about how we can debug our apps in different modes and when to debug those apps. Next, I'll be talking about everything new that is in Android Studio since Flamingo, Giraffe, and Hedgehog. Hedgehog is still not stable. It is still in the Canary build, but I'd like to talk about how I use it. for my productivity. Uh, Next, I'll be talking about shortcuts that we can use in Android Studio, which really would help again the speed up our searching and speed up our writing capability. Most of us know all these shortcuts by now, but I would like to go through them once again to give a brief introduction about how I use my favorite shortcuts to optimize my productivity with Android Studio. So let's begin. Uh, Optimizing the Studio IDE UI to make it more comfortable for us, how we are comfortable. See, if I go to settings and I go to appearance, I am allowed to have a light theme, dark theme, and all these themes were already there in the in the previous Android Studio versions. Some of us prefer the light version. Some of us prefer the dark version. It basically is a personal choice. My personal choice is the dark version, but I have seen many of my co-workers working on the light version. So it really depends on how we are comfortable with the IDE, and uh, this helps to get your eyes used to what it is seeing. And even the color codes that come with, like, the functions are of a different code, the arguments are of a different color code, so that really helps us to know what things we are looking at and how we can quickly navigate through the functions or the classes and stuff. Next, I'll talk about how we can optimize the fonts. Now, fonts is something which I found was never soothing to me initially when I started with the Android Studio development in Android Studio. So I really look forward to have the fonts that would actually help me to recognize my statements, recognize my code. And finally, after multiple many experiments, I came across that Source Code Pro was the font for me, and the I have a very high number for my spectacles, so I prefer to have a font size really large. So I prefer this kind of a setup. But I've seen people working with very tiny fonts, and I have to actually lean towards their laptop screen to get to know their code. But that's their personal choice, and well, this is my personal choice, and you can optimize this according to your choice. Like, I've seen people using Fire code, which is the ultimate go-to font for many Android developers. For me, it's Source Code Pro. Again, you can manage the weight for your typography, and it's again a personal choice. I prefer regular and bold for this kind of a setup. Then I'll be talking about a code style. Now, many of us have seen that there are two kinds of people. The first lot wants their braces to be on the same line as that of the functions, while there are some people who want their braces to be on the next line. So it's actually our personal choice, and that is why I have used these settings for my let's say my Kotlin code, and I prefer to manage this according to my personal choice. Let's say I want the parentheses to be on the same line, so I've I've ticked on this, but many people would like their parentheses to be on the next line. So that is also an option that they can choose from here. There are a variety of coding styles that you can use as per your convenience. For me, this is basically what is easy for me to navigate through my code. Even you can also define the tabs and indents, the number of spaces that your tabs would have, the number of spaces that intents would have. Uh,
Yeah, sorry
Code
to,
generation. Yeah.
yeah, folks were saying that they could not see the preference pop-up that you were mentioning.
Okay. Let me check. Okay, I'll reshare my screen again. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah, see these settings. Yep.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I could not get it.
No, thank you so much.
Okay. So in my settings pop-up, I select the code style, and then from code style I go to my Kotlin code style, and I usually take all these things and I keep when I start with a new studio version, I usually tweak this according to my preference, and there are a lot of things that you can optimize here. There are a lot of things are convenient and to make your coding style convenient for yourself. There is also new in compose as well, so that optimizing your coding styles. Then I particularly what I are the different modes of screen that you can go. There is one particular mode that is Zen mode. If I enter the Zen mode, then it leaves away all the other tabs and all the other tool windows around me, and it would just let me focus on my code in this particular format. So it's very easy for me to just focus on what I'm coding, and I don't have any much of distractions around me. So that's a Zen mode. What I also like about another thing is a split screen. So if I want to, let's say, split my screen in two parts, one on the left side and one on the right side, so I can actually come to one, I can work on two files at that time, at one time. For example, if I want to tweak my Gradle file, then I can work on the left window, and then I can go to my code window and see that where I'm stuck and where I can use those directly while working on the two files. So that's also very helpful. Split screen, I can again choose to exit the split screen. Okay, next I can customize my log. I can again customize my cat, which is also very, very just a second. I need to get out of this. Okay. Okay. So there is this new logcat that has been launched since Electric Ale version. What I like about this logcat is that I can filter my logs according to certain conditions. There were filters before Electric Ale, but this particular filter would let me use tags as well. For example, if I have a log with a tag of let's say my name, I usually use my name to uh, debug my code. So it's really easy for me to navigate from just focus on one particular feature, and then I remove that log, and then I again use the same tag for debugging other responses or other files. So it's really helpful. I can even filter my filter my logs according to the level of the log. For example, if I want to see only the debug logs, then I can use the debug level. If I want to just see focus on my errors, then I can focus on my errors. So this helps to uh, filter your logs, and it becomes easy for you to debug your code according to what you need to focus on. For example, if I want to focus on only the responses that I got from from an API, so I can easily use the tag as uh, whatever name we choose to use. I usually use my name because it's more convenient for me, but you can again use the name of the API or name of the class that you're working with. Then again, if I know that there are some crashes going on and I want to just focus on that crash and focus on the stack trace for that crash, then I usually use the level error. So that helps me to just focus on the errors and filter out all the other tags. I can also favorite my settings here so that I can quickly jump to those favorite tags here. These are some of the tags that I have favorited, which I use very frequently. So I can just quickly jump to them and just start working with things. So this is Lockcat. Another thing about Lockcat, what I like is that you can color code your logs according to their level. For example, for debug mode, I use the blue color, and for errors, I use the red color, and for warnings, I use the yellow color. So that helps me to gain perspective of the logs. Let me just run my app so that some of my logs will be available to you. If I go to settings screen, I can also, this is where I am able to handle my color coding for all the logs that are present. Okay. So this is again, this is something that, defines the buffer size for my logcat, and what should be the default logcat for when I start working for an app. So if I see at the logs now, I'm able to see the logs. Let me just click on something, check the logs again. So I am able to see the logs. Now, if I want to see, there are a lot of warnings here. So if I want to just see only the warnings, then I would just go and check for the level 1. And I'll be able to just see the warnings. So it really helps to put things into perspective and help you focus on what logs you want. Next, there is another feature in Logcat where you can use a compact version or the standard version. And if I want to again go and modify my views, then this is how I prefer my compact version of the Logcat to be, where I just want to see the timestamp, I just want to see the tags, and I just want to see the Logcat stack trace, and I don't want to get distracted with what comes with the standard version, which is a very long timestamp, a tag, and then the package name, and then again it shows me the process ID. All these things are very distractive to me. That needs me to scroll vertically towards the right to see the actual logs that I'm getting. So I prefer the compact version, and this is how I've managed my compact version. So you can as well do this to optimize quickly to see your step trace instead of you're not interested in the process ID or you're not interested really in the timestamp. So you can exclude that also and just focus on what the step trace is. Next, I would like to talk about I'll just put this screenshots if I was not able to. Okay, so next I want to talk about how you can improve the performance of your Android Studio to make it work for you, to make the Gradle builds really fast and spend less time with the Gradle builds and focus more time on development. So first tip, which many of us already know, the first tip is to just disable the plugins that are already installed with your studio and just disable them. For example, if I go to settings screen again, and if I go to plugins, there are a lot of plugins here that are already installed for me, which I don't really need. For example, I don't really need the plugins for Firebase, or let's say I don't want Subversion to be a part of my plugins. I don't really use Subversion, or I don't use Mercurian, or again, I don't use the editor config. I don't want to use the Firebase services right now. I don't want to use the Firebase testing. So I can disable all of these and it increases your credit builds to a very high level. So that really helps us to speed up things. Next, there are offline Gradle feature where you can opt to have your Gradle built in the offline mode. So let's say you're traveling in a plane or where you're traveling in a train and you don't really have internet connectivity available to you. So you can easily shift to the offline Gradle and quickly start building your Gradle without having to deal with. For that, you need to get the Gradle zip from the official Gradle website, and you can easily find that available on the Gradle website. And instead of pointing your distribution URL to the actual URL when it downloads from the cloud, you can shift here and you can just use the zip that you have downloaded. Now, this Gradle zips comes in two forms. Gradle version Bean and Gradle version All. We don't really need the All version because that just comes with the documentation and other annotations which you don't really need for building your Gradle files with Android. So you need to download the Bean version of that, where it just points, it just have links to the different Gradle files and helps you to optimize. Again, if you want to move to offline Gradle, you need to enable this particular line, and then you have to go to the Gradle tool and toggle to offline mode from here. Earlier it was in the settings screen from your settings dialog, but now this is a very easy to use Gradle offline version where you can just simply click on the Gradle tool window and you can opt to toggle it from here. Next, many of us might know this also, but we need to check the heap version of our Gradle, where if you go to the memory settings from the system settings, you'll be able to increase your IDE version. Let's say you have a very high configured laptop and you have a lot of RAM that is just sitting there and not really being used. So you can go and change the heap version from here. The default version is 1024 MB, but you can optimize it to 2048, and you can even go further if you have a lot of RAM at your hand. Similarly, you can also have Gradle daemons and Kotlin daemons to have your required heap size. Also, it's up to you. It's up to how your laptop is configured with different RAM size and your CPU size, and it helps you to quick things up while building your projects. So yeah. Next, I have seen a lot of developers who knowingly or unknowingly use shrink and minify as they set their shrink and minify to true, which is helpful when you are building a release version of your app, but it creates a lot of bottleneck when you are trying to build your debug file. So there are two different build types which we usually work with. One is the debug version, which we usually work with, and the release version, which we later shift to when we want to deal with, let's say, Google Maps or other stuff where we need a release build. So I've seen many developers using minify enable to setting minified enable and strict resources to true in the debug version as well. And believe me, if you try to run this app, it will take twice as much time as it does while you are not using this. So it's highly recommended. It you don't really need this for your debug build, because you don't really care about your app size when you are dealing with your debug versions. Of course, you need those when you are building a release version, but you don't really need it for debug. It takes twice or thrice the time to build your Gradle, and we all know what a pain it is to have your Gradle build to take forever. So yeah, that it. Next, I want to talk about. I'll again skip some of the demo screenshots that I've put. Yeah. Next, I want to talk about how you can inspect your device, your running device from Android Studio itself. If I go to Android Studio, there is this new tab of running devices. Even if you cannot find it here, you can simply use a shortcut that is one of my favorites, and I can just type in running devices, and it will show me my running devices over here, and it will quickly let me interact with my device. Let's say I want to type something or the other, I can simply use that from here. So it's really helpful to finally get away from SCR PPY, which most of us use for casting our mobile screens to directly to the laptop and start interacting with those. So it's really very good to have your running device, your physical device, to be cast in your studio rather than using the emulators, because as we know, the emulators also take forever to run and take a lot of RAM. So this was one of my personal favorites from the new Android versions. So there is also an option where you can now directly inspect your layout from your running devices in the studio itself. So there is this button of toggling your layout inspector. So if I click on it, I am able to see my running devices. So I can now quickly jump through my different layouts, and I can simply click on any of the composables or any of the UI component, and I can quickly inspect the component and get to know my components a little better and get to know where my padding or what is the size of my composables, what my components are taking, and that really helps to understand your layout. And you can have all these attributes. You can manage your attributes from here. You can know your layout better from this. there is also this button where you can select the layout, and then you can have all the, whether it's a button, so what is the elevation of the button, what are the contents of the button, basically what is the x and y coordinates for your particular component, or the height and the width of the component, and so on. So this is one of my favorites again from the new studio versions. uh, you can also quickly get out of it and just start using your app normally. Next, yeah. Again, one of the things that I've noticed for with the new developers around me is that they start their app directly in the debug mode, instead of waiting for that right screen to come. For example, if you have multiple screens in your app and you want to debug the fifth screen that you open by navigating through the app, then it's really very hectic, a very tedious job to just start your app in the debug mode and then navigate through the app, because it takes time to attach the debugger sometimes if you have a very large app. So I always recommend to attach debugger whenever you reach that particular screen, and particularly when you're about to start with the event that you actually want to debug your code with. For example, I have this screen and I want to start my debugging only when I click on the button. So before clicking on this button, I will attach my debugger to my Android process, and then I can debug without having to deal with the pains of attaching the debug before navigating through the app. So this is one of the features that I've seen many developers skip, but I highly recommend this. It's really helpful. Then there is again another feature where you can directly start your app with you can directly start your app in a profile mode, which helps you to profile your app, which you used to have a different tab, but now you can use it with two options, with a very low overhead or with a complete overhead. It helps you to put things in perspective. Where am I still audible, Navati? Hello.
Yeah, you're still audible. And in between, there was a little trouble, but it's
Yeah,
very.
I just got a notification, so I
So
was not.
what you could do is maybe switch off your video for a bit if you're having some network issues. Maybe with the Android Studio and stuff, it might be consuming a bit more bandwidth.
Okay, okay.
Thank-
My screen is still audible.
Yeah, it's visible. Great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So you can profile your app quickly with a low overhead or a complete data. It depends on how you want to manage resources while profiling your app. So this is another great feature from the new Android Studio versions. Next, I want to talk about live edits. Again, live edits is one of the favorites and one of the features that we have all been waiting for ever since all of us Android developers started working with Flutter, because Flutter had this option since a long time where you can quickly uh, where you can quickly uh, see your changes directly in your IDE. For example, I have this red button here, and I don't really like the red color, and I would like it to have a dynamic color like the uh, rest of my app. So I'll just go to that particular screen. Let me go to that screen. And I would like my button to be not red, but to just take dynamic color. And as you can see, it shows me outdated version. So I'll just click on refresh and it will just update my UI to take all the other changes that I did right now in my code, and the button color is changed. So instant runs are finally a working feature for Android Studio, and this is again one of my personal best. Mm. Now I want to come to the best part of this talk, where I want to talk about the new UI that has come with Android Studio Giraffe, and continued improvements with Android Studio Hedgehog. So I quickly want to go through the new. As you can see, I've been using the new UI since this beginning of this presentation, and I can again go to the settings screen, and I can click on the UI, and I need to enable the new UI from here, where it is a very compact mode, compact version of what we had earlier, where we have the tool windows on the left corner instead of we used to have it at the bottom of our layouts. Again, these right side menus have also changed to give us the gradle version and the running devices version. And if you want to go to the file manager, file explorer, or the device manager, then we need to put those here. And this is where all my tool windows are accessible to us right with only one click, where it was tedious beforehand, but now it's available here, which is just 2 clicks away from what we really need. For example, if the Flutter developers might relate to this, where when you start with a Flutter project, it usually hides the device explorer and device manager from the right hand side with the old layout. But now it's really handy when you want to just go to them with only one click from here. Otherwise, it was just you go to the tools and you go to the series of menu items, and then you start with it. Next, I would like to talk about quickly talk about the dynamic color are introduced with the new Android Studio, where you can directly choose to see how your app will look like in different, when you have your app have different wallpapers. So if I select this particular wallpaper, it will show me my adaptive icon to take a form of the dynamic color from my chosen wallpaper. If I select this yellowish, then it will clearly give me a yellowish adaptive icon for my app, so I can visualize how my app icon would look like from here. For that, you need to add this particular line with your adaptive icon, where you choose the monochrome feature, where it enables you to dynamically view your colors in your app icon. Then I would like to talk about how you can use the composable previews, where you can preview your layouts directly in Android Studio. You can preview your composables directly from the Android Studio, and you don't need to run your apps on different devices to get to know how your app will look like with other devices. So I'll just wait for it to build to understand the preview. I have two forms of preview here. One preview is where I am using the view model to actually get what I need. And this is just to showcase how you can use your preview, use your view model in your preview. So this is one of the previews that I'm using, and this is another preview where I am using the preview parameter, where I am I'll just quickly show you the code, where I am using the parameter provider, where I'm actually providing a sequence of messages which are hard coded and which do not come from the view model. And this particular version uh, gets the UI state from the view model itself. So these are the two previews that I have right now. And if I want to again see how my preview will look like, I have a dynamic dynamic theme feature going on in my preview. And I would really like to understand how my preview will look like with different wallpapers. So I have this preview annotation over my composable preview composable, and I would like to see how my app would react with different wallpapers. So I choose a different wallpaper from here, and let's say I want to see how my app will look like in a red color. So it will just show me how my app will look with a red color. If I want to, let's say I want to see how my app will look like with the system UI. So I'll just quickly turn this on. Wait for it to load. Still loading. And it will show me how my app will look like with the system UI. There are other parameters here as well, which you can explore with it shows if you want to choose your height and width for your device, then you can use the height and width fields. If you want to arguments, if you want to localize your app, see your app, how your app will look like in different locales, then you can use the different locales as well. You can also use different for font scales. We have now availability of font scaling in the new Android version, so you can use the font scaling to get to know your UI a little better. So these are all the preview parameters which you can explore later on, but this is how I usually understand my UI on different devices. So that is about it. Then I would like to talk about Android app quality, which is bringing your Crashlytics, Firebase Crashlytics directly in your studio. I do not have it configured right now in my app, this particular app, but I would like to understand, make you understand a little bit about it from this screenshot from the official documentation. Here you have a drop down to select your versions of your application, where you can choose the version that you want to see your crashes for. Then you can filter the logs according to whether they are just warnings or whether they are errors, and you can prioritize accordingly. Each of these issue comes with what number of events happened and for how many users this event happened. For example, if I have a crash and I can see that, okay, these are the events at how many times the crash happened and for how many users the crash happened. And I can simply look at this and I can prioritize my crashes accordingly, and I can accordingly fix my crashes. Then again, I can filter it from the days which is available from the Firebase console itself. I can choose the version of my app. I can use the devices for which the crashes are happened. For example, if I am getting bugs that are particular to a Samsung device and I want to filter out all other devices and errors related to those devices, I can filter the devices from here. I can also have a list of devices here that are affected, and I can see that, okay, Samsung devices are the most affected devices for this particular crash. So I can look into it from this point of view, and it would help me to understand also that the Android version 13 is the most affected one. So I can target my debug devices accordingly and select uh, my debugging focus on that particular part. So that's app quality insights, which was a great help for me for a particular crash that was stuck on for a long time, and which was again a device specific app. So this really helped to help me to close the bug before beforehand, before it could affect a lot of other people. And here is a link of, or here is a link of where you can just go to the Firebase console from here and look into the analytics part more in more detail. But this is pretty much really helpful for you to focus on prioritizing your bugs. Next, I quickly want to talk about the shortcuts that I personally use to optimize my coding. I have keyboard shortcuts, as you can see in my Android Studio. Whenever I'm using something, I can see a big red toast like thing coming up on my screen, popping up on my screen. So this is a particular plugin which I have installed in my app, which is a presentation assistant, which helps me to, let's say, if I'm clicking on this stop button, then it will show me that, okay, you can use Control plus F2 to do this particular action. So no need for you to go to your mouse and click it. You can simply do that by using that shortcut from your keyboard itself. And in my experience, I've found myself to be more productive if I'm using just the keyboard and I'm not touching the mouse. So it's really a personal choice again, but I feel that you are more productive when you are just dealing with the keyboard and keeping aside the mouse for when you are just coding your screens. So this is one of the shortcuts that I use to, that really helps me. Some of the shortcuts I have listed in the next two slides, which are again my favorites. But let's quickly go to live templates. Again, all of us are aware of what live templates are. So I'll just quickly go to the settings screen. I'll go to the live templates. So these are all the live templates that are available to us. They are available to us in the studio itself from when we use the studio. These are all the Kotlin related live pieces. One thing I would like to explore in this demo is how we can quickly add the padding modifier to our composables, which are, again, these are all inbuilt uh, default live patterns which are available to us. So if I want to just add a modifier with a padding and where I just need to give the DP size for the padding, I can quickly use this modifier, this live template, and just be with it. Under the user modifier, this is the particular live template that I have created for my use. I know that in this project, I have a lot of elevated buttons and I would like to quickly add it to my code. So I will quickly go and use this. For example, if I am creating a function, let's say a button, and I want to add a elevated button over here, I'll just simply use the live template and I'm good to go. And then I can go ahead and click on the imports and deal with the imports. Another thing which after almost 3 years of my Android development life, I came across this and I thought to myself, duh, I could have used it pretty beforehand. Beforehand was on the fly imports, auto imports, where you can choose to auto import your statements easily. We are running out of time, but I also wanted to showcase this to you, how we can use the on the fly imports. But this is pretty handy, and it took me 3 years to notice this feature in Android Studio, and I was like, duh, I could have used this earlier and saved myself from all the alt enter tabs. So this is another one of the great shortcuts for me. Another shortcuts that I use is bookmarking my code. Let's say I have a very long code, very long Kotlin file, and I would like to jump from one method to the another method in my same file, or let's say in some other file. So I quickly create bookmarks and I give them shortcuts. Let's say one for here and two for, let's say, somewhere here, and I can quickly jump to that mnemonic from control one or control two, and it becomes really easy for you to jump from one code to another code line, and it helps speed things up again to optimize your speed more uh, in a more efficient way. So these are one of my favorite shortcuts that I use frequently. Uh, I would like to talk about a few of the uh, shortcuts that I use. All of us use kind of some of the shortcuts, but what I love about some of the shortcuts is this. For example, if I use the Control Shift and J, I can join lines when needed. And let's say I want to make my app, make my functions a bit little compact, so I can use this one. There are still some other shortcuts that I would have loved to talk about, but I think we are running out of time. So these are some of the shortcuts that I have listed in the PPT. I'll share my PPT with Navati, and maybe Navati can share the same with you. So I think that's it from me. Any questions? I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope I managed to give you some insights on how you can optimize your Android Studio experience, and I hope you liked it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya. This was definitely a very, very useful talk. I mean, I'm not an Android engineer, but I could see how useful this is. I'm going to look for some, corresponding things to do in Xcode. But yeah, really loved it. And I loved how you covered so many different aspects of, helping devs be more productive with Android Studio. It was a very, very thorough talk in that sense, and really appreciate that. And I know folks were asking for your blog, and I found your Medium blog. Is that the one you were referring to? Is that where you usually blog?
Medium, yeah.
Yeah.
On
Okay,
Medium.
Okay, so I'm going to share that link with folks because they were asking. And yeah, and I also want to ask, I know you mentioned some of those tips being your favorite, but which one is your favorite overall? Like, it was like mind-blowing and you were like, thank God I discovered this.
Yeah, I've seen instant runs come in and out, hot runs come in and out on Android Studio, but it never really worked like how great it works with Flutter. Flutter people would know that. So I really loved that finally Live Edit is up and running for us, and I enjoy that a lot. I also like the new UI. It is very compact and it lets me focus on the code more.
Yeah, that's really important for an IDE. And so also just curious, I know that the new Android Studio has some new features which you highlighted, but what is something that's on your wish list for the next Android Studio version? And folks, if you also have anything, let us know in the chat.
Yeah, in Android Studio, we have emulator where we can get the emulator out of the studio and have it as a standalone window. So I would like running devices to have the same feature. I'm not sure if that is available because I've tried it, but I still could not get hold of it on Hedgehog. But if it is there, I would like folks to point me there. So, but yeah, I would really like that feature to come up.
Okay, hopefully it does come up. So Jain has a question here. Do you have any plugins for Android Studio that can enhance this development? Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch you.
Do you have any plugins for Android Studio that can help with enhancing the speed in development?
I have this plugin presentation assistant which help me gain a lot of insights into what shortcuts you can use apart from the documentation that is already provided by the Android developers. So that really helped me to speed things up while using only the keyboard and reaching my mouse. So that was one of my favorites.
Okay, great to know. This was, like I said, very resourceful. I'll share your slides and, oh, we have one more question. So Evelyn is asking, I saw a mention of Studio Bot in your slides. Have you used that yet? And it sounds like a game changer.
Oh. I live in India, so sadly I cannot use it because it's US exclusive. But people in US can try it. I haven't tried it yet. I have tried a little bit of Bard, so maybe it's on the same lines as Bard, but I'm in India, so sadly I cannot use it. And we were running out of time, so I skipped that part in the presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have another couple of minutes, there are a couple of things. So Swapnil messaged here saying standalone emulator is available in Studio inside the emulator option.
Yeah,
So,
but I wanted to use a standalone running device kind of a video. So emulator slows things down. So I usually don't prefer emulators.
right. And one more question from Jain. Do you have Android Studio tips to optimize the build process to reduce build times in Android Studio?
Yeah, you can use the offline Gradle as mentioned in you can increase the heap size, and you can use the offline Gradle that would probably help you build faster.
Yeah, I feel this. Even for Xcode, it can get really slow, and yeah, there's a lot could be done. So great. Thank you so much. I've already shared your Medium blog, and we'll share your slides as well with folks on our Slack, and our recording also will be shared. So yeah, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate this. This was really amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Navati. Thank you all the attendees for attending this talk.
Yeah, thank you, folks. See ya. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.